Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition today, as always, we are on Birmingham Area Municipal Access on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, as well as on 88.1 WBFH The Biff. Today, our Facebook partner of the day is the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office, and we thank Debbie Binder and her entire team at the Clerk's Office for joining us on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. A lot to get to today, Ronnie. We just had our COVID-19 vaccine town hall. That quick transition moved everything else around. We're keeping the blue lights, keeping that hospitable mood here in the studio for this edition of the Oakland County Megacast, and we are in the full swing today.
I will say it was a great show, and Tyler, you know that we speak with a lot of people on a regular basis here on the Megacast and the experts about COVID-19 and this crisis, but by having so many people together at one time, it does really help clarify, and also just, there's so much confusion. So it, helps us with the confusion, which I will say I'm a little confused this morning too, because I've only had a half a cup of coffee and I've been up since 4.
Yeah, I'm a little bit in the same boat. I've had 1 cup of coffee. I've only really put in 45 minutes of on-air work. I've only really been here since 7:30. It's 2.5 hours of work. That's not too much. I feel like I've been through the entire day already, Ronnie. It's been a whirlwind of a morning. That's what news does to you.
It has. Hey, Tyler, are we going to re-air the COVID-19 town hall?
Yes, we will be re-airing the COVID-19 town hall today. It will first re-air on WBTV at 1 o'clock this afternoon. That's Comcast Channel 19 and AT&T Channel 99. We have a West Bloomfield Township meeting that replays at 1 o'clock. Following that meeting, we will replay the COVID-19 vaccine town hall, followed by our regular Megacast replay. And for the remainder of the evening and into tomorrow before our show and after our show, the programming will be cycling between the vaccine town hall and the Megacast. All of that will be on our website as well on civiccentertv.com this afternoon.
That's great. For anyone who may have missed it, you want to go ahead and check it out. Plus, once we get it up online, too, you can kind of scroll through it, because we did take questions directly from the public. We've been asking you for your questions, and so we had the questions, you had the questions, and we got them answered for you. So again, we want to say thank you to all of our panelists today for taking time out to be with us. I will say, normally we kick off with the headlines, but I do want to let people know Oakland County right now, County Executive Coulter is holding a press conference as we speak to talk about the county's update on some of the information regarding the vaccine here in Oakland County, but I was able to get my hands on an early press release. And so the Oakland County Health Division's percentage of COVID vaccine doses administered has exceeded 99% to date. So they've had about 41,350 doses through the state that were given to the health division since December 17th, and 41,323 are in people's arms. So the health department playing a critical role, Tyler, here in Oakland County for our residents to try to get them vaccinated at this time. They are also announcing that they are going to be partnering with Honor Community Health, Henry Ford West Bloomfield, as well as Meyer. They are Oakland County's current COVID vaccine provider partners. And so they are doing a good job with that as well. Also, they have been working through the Honor Community Health to vaccinate group homes in Pontiac as well. So they are trying to target and get the doses out as quickly as they can. The problem, the supply. But Oakland County seems to be doing a good job, a great job actually, with what they have been able to get their hands on and getting it into the arms of the people here in Oakland County.
Yes, they're doing their part as well to keep the community informed and to update people on the vaccination process. It's been slower than it's expected. It's been frustrating for people. We got a lot of questions about, I'm in this situation or I'm in that situation, very specific questions that we moved into more general questions for the vaccine town hall about why I'm in this population that is at risk and I have this comorbidity that puts me at a higher risk, and it's still tough for people to get vaccines. So getting those answers, getting those updates, it helps to inform the public of what is going on in our local county area, because as much as we can look at the national and the state response, what's happening in your local area is what's going to affect you the most.
Yeah, we had Dr. Faust on with us as well for the COVID-19 vaccine, and we were talking about the Oakland County program, Save Your Spot. So they have had nearly 500,000 people register for the Oakland County Save Your Spot. And so you go online, you put your name on. One thing he was saying, do not register more than once, because all you're doing is you're taking up valuable resources to try to process that information more than once. It's not a lottery system. It's not how it works. They're going to go in order. So check that out if you are trying to get a spot or an appointment. The other thing you want to do is, if we heard over and over from our experts, they all said pretty much the same thing. Put your name on any list that you can find.
Yeah, that was an answer that I was a little more surprised to hear today from our experts, but that is confirming what a lot of people have been doing, that they're trying to get on any list to get in line, to get their vaccine, to get them out of the process as quickly as possible, and that is what is being suggested by our medical experts. So whatever you can sign up for, I just recently put my Save My Spot information in with Oakland County, and that's easy. It took 2 minutes to get done, if that. For most people, you're just putting in your name and some basic information, whether or not you're an essential worker, and there are other methods as well through certain health systems, through your primary care provider, and other outlets like Meijer and other retailers that are going to be providing COVID-19 vaccines.
We got to keep in mind too, we've never done this.
Right.
Yes, we have vaccinated people for years. However, we've never tried to roll out a mass vaccination effort such as what is underway right now. So be patient, be kind, and we'll get through it together. Speaking of that, we'll go ahead and jump into the headlines for the day. Tyler, I'll tell you what, the restaurant industry has really taken a hit during this time, but to their credit, the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, they have now crafted a proposal for restrictions based on coronavirus testing stats. They're trying to get creative and work with the government and the Whitmer administration to try to find a solution to keeping the restaurants open. So they proposed an economic reintegration strategy. It would pretty much base reopening on the percentage of Michigan COVID-19 tests coming back positive. Restaurants would close whenever more than 15% of tests are positive for 14 days in a row, and they would use the 7-day average. This fall in the winter, Michigan's 7-day average peaked at 14.3%. So if this program were to be in place, the restaurants would have been able to remain open. The plan was designed by looking at other states reopening their plans. So Whitmer did address the proposal during the news conference yesterday afternoon, saying she'll always listen to input, but she added that if Michiganders want to raise capacity at restaurants, they need to keep helping COVID-19 numbers decline. Also, one thing that came out yesterday is the health department quietly extended the curfew and the 25% capacity limits for the restaurants until, I believe, the end of March. It was set to expire February 21st.
Yeah, that low water mark for community spread is right around 3%. This at 5 times that rate, 15%, would be the cap in this Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association proposed plan. Probably why, despite the governor saying she's open to ideas, that idea wouldn't necessarily be something that would be agreeable to at the state level, because it is so much higher than the community spread levels and has such high capacity. And in all the recent news about vaccination distribution troubles at the federal, state, and local level, it has kind of been lost that these restrictions that were only going to be in place for a little while longer have once again been extended, but that is the case. And you can, of course, learn more on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus and click on that state link.
Well, everyone pretty much knew that it was going to be extended. Anyone in the restaurant industry, and really probably everyone is thinking that the restrictions and the curfew won't be lifted until at least the springtime, which would put us into probably April. But you would think that she wants to keep it in place through the St. Patrick's Day holiday season, which of course is such a big restaurant and bar season. I think I also saw, Tyler, that restaurant that was up north, they had their liquor license suspended because of the fact that they stayed open past 10 o'clock and they were not adhering to that 25% capacity limit.
Yeah, a lot of businesses are going to continue to try to push the limits and to see what they can get away with on the local level, because that enforcement's not coming directly from the state unless it's reported to them by local law enforcement or by tipsters from out in the population. There are going to be those businesses that push the limits. It's something that is not exactly suggested if you want to maintain your licenses and maintain your ability to stay open and not face legal action from the state, which we've seen Dana Nessel's office, the Attorney General, go after these businesses that haven't followed these guidelines several times throughout this pandemic.
Yeah, and we'll continue to hear more as the restrictions remain in place. But there is some good news. Michigan reported 939 new coronavirus cases and just 11 new deaths. Yesterday, the state is averaging about 901 new COVID-19 cases per day and about 30 new deaths per day over the last week. Now, this is the second straight day where the 7-day average of cases has increased, but this comes after there were 19 straight days of the average decreasing. And think back to, November, December, those numbers were very high. So to be under 1,000 new cases a day is a good thing. So 60 of Michigan's 83 counties reported the new cases on Monday. Wayne County led in new cases with 129. Next closest being here in Oakland County and Kent County with 124. But as of Monday, Michigan has administered more than 1.68 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. So we are on our way to that herd immunity. It's just going to take a while to get there. Yeah,
like Dr. Malhotra said on our COVID-19 vaccine town hall, which you will be able to see on civiccentertv.com later on today, right around that 70% of the population mark is where we see herd immunity, where there's not no chance of any further spread of the virus, but that community spread and widespread of the virus to pandemic or lesser extent epidemic proportions is significantly less likely. So seeing the case numbers continue to go down, the percentage of positive cases coming back continue to go down, it's good news, and it means that the precautions that we're taking as individual citizens, and to some extent the precautions that are being taken at the government level, are currently working.
I would imagine that slight uptick has to do with Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would think so. It's a common gathering day. It's a time where friends and families commingle, and maybe it's a couple of households, but it's a lot of people in close proximity cheering, yelling, talking, and that's an easy way, unmasked, to spread the virus.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, right around 2 weeks.
I feel like it's Groundhog
like it.
Day. They all blend together, Tyler.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see President Biden's trip to Michigan is going to be delayed because of the weather? So Biden was scheduled to tour the Pfizer vaccine manufacturing facility in Portage on Thursday. His visit is now expected to take place tomorrow. It will be the president's first visit to the state of Michigan since he was elected. Pfizer said it takes about 110 days to produce a batch of the COVID-19 vaccine, but earlier this month, the company said it's launching Project Lightspeed as it plans to make vaccine production more efficient. So with Project Lightspeed in place, Pfizer expects to make a batch of the vaccine in about 60 days, meaning more doses are on the way.
Yeah, Project Lightspeed, not to be confused with President Trump's previous Project Warp Speed, also in regards to the COVID-19 virus and the vaccine. Yeah, that's a 50-day difference. 50 days is a long time to be waiting for anything, and especially vaccines, and they're needed. Vaccines are absolutely needed in every single county, in every single municipal area in the United States right now to help ramp up this vaccination effort that's already far behind where it was expected to be. So hopefully this is fruitful. Hopefully that 50 days continues to make strong vaccines that are effective when they are put into people's arms, and we get more potential vaccines that maybe aren't 2 doses, like that Johnson & Johnson vaccine that's still in production and awaiting going to the FDA for approval.
Yeah, they're expecting that the FDA is going to approve the emergency use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine by the end of the month. That, Tyler, is the one I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that's one a lot of people are waiting for. Of course, as Dr. Malhotra and Dr. Chen had suggested on our vaccine town hall this morning, if you can get another vaccine before waiting for that Johnson & Johnson, they would suggest that you get that. But a lot of people are going to prefer, hey, I'm not very comfortable with shots. I'm taking all my precautions. I'm going to wait for the 1-dose vaccine and hope I can get in the line quickly during that time period. I'm already waiting. I'm going to continue to be waiting, and I might as well. And that's okay as long as you're taking those precautions. But they do suggest in the medical community that if you have an opportunity to get vaccinated now, you should do so.
Yeah. Don't pick and choose which vaccine you get. However, we're the back of the bus.
Oh, yeah.
So by the time it gets down to us, I'll take a 1 poke in the arm versus 2. I have a hard time right now, too, Tyler. I'm not a planner. I am not one of those people with my calendar out going, okay, at this date and this time, I'm going to, go to the doctor or get my hair done or get my nails done. So this whole world we're living in right now is very hard for me. So that's why 1 dose, 1 appointment works better for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between where I'm either going to vigorously plan something down to every single detail, and I'll get frustrated if anything's ever so slightly off, or I'm spur of the moment and I'm just a bat out of hell running around getting things done. So if I get in line now, yeah, I'm going to go get the vaccine. But if my time doesn't come up anytime soon, and it happens to be when there's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and that happens to be 1 shot, I'm not exactly going to be disappointed that I'm getting poked in the arm 1 less time.
Yeah, and also now that the restaurants are back open, 25% capacity, it's still better for me because you don't have to make an appointment for one of the igloos. You can actually just pop in.
Yeah, you can just pop in and get right in there, and you're outdoors, but you're still kind of indoors. And so if you can't get a seat inside of the physical restaurant with that 25% capacity, you can still go and still somewhat be inside.
Hey, so just a reminder to everyone, if you want to catch the latest headlines, go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and that's where you'll find the latest headlines. They are posted each and every morning. And then also at the top of the page, you will find direct links to valuable resources such as the state of Michigan, the CDC, and Oakland County, in which, as a reminder, Oakland County is right now currently having a press conference updating all of us on the county's vaccination efforts. So, again, you can catch that a little bit later if you go to civiccentertv.com. With that, we're going to take a quick break here on the show, and when we come back, we have who's going to be with us? Darren Baker will be with us. He's the manager of BioLife Plasma Services Livonia Center. We'll be talking to him right after this quick break.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test, and now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/containcovid.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. We want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. We've been hearing a lot about plasma donation and the use of plasma for COVID-19, but it's been around for quite some time. To talk a little bit more with us on this topic, Darren Baker. He's the manager for BioLife Plasma Services in Livonia Center. Thank you for being with us.
For having me. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us exactly, what does BioLife Plasma Services Center do?
Great question. One of the nice things about our name that's right in the title, BioLife Plasma, we have our donors come into our facility. They're able to, up to twice in a 7-day period, donate their plasma, and then from there on, we're able to use that plasma to help make many life-saving therapies.
So how long does it take when you donate plasma? Is it like giving blood?
It's a little bit longer than giving blood. The process, I won't go into too much detail, but we draw out your whole blood from the body, separate the plasma from the red blood cells, and then return the red blood cells back to the donor. An average donation visit length is about 45 minutes to an hour.
So do you get cookies at the end and in a juice box like when you get blood?
So thankfully, with BioLife Plasma Services, because of the extra time and commitment, we're able to compensate our donors for each donation.
So with that, Darren, when it comes to the process, is it painful though? I mean, anytime needles are involved, I get a little queasy.
Oh, I understand that. Myself, when I first started, I felt the same way. The very first step in the process, there actually involves a little finger poke, and I hear all the time that finger poke is actually worse than the needle.
What? So I have seen some of these plasma centers, and you'll see a line out the door of people willing to donate. What is the screening process like?
Yeah, so very first step, especially with all the things that are happening on just in the outside world right now, we are doing temperature screenings right as soon as our donors enter our facility. From there, they do an electronic questionnaire where we ask basic questions about their health history, any surgeries, tattoos, medicines they may be taking. From there, we'll do that finger poke that I talked about, where we'll test the blood to make sure it's in a nice range for a healthy, safe donation. We'll do a blood pressure reading, again, just making sure you're in a good spot to donate with us, and then you're out onto the donor floor.
So with that, how many people can you process at any given time? I know that when you give blood, sometimes they'll do them in like a big arena or someplace like that. Or are you a smaller location?
So we just actually opened up, this is our first week of being open. My facility is able to process up to 60 donors at a time, but starting off, they kind of ramp us up. So right now I can get about 30 people in at a time. So
how'd you get into this line of work?
That is a question that I ask myself every day. No, I'm just kidding. I was managing a grocery store, and I love managing people, but I wasn't getting that kind of satisfaction from it, from what I was looking for in my day-to-day life. And what we do here really does help save lives. So I get to leave every night knowing that what I did helped change someone's life for the better.
That it really is a good feeling. It helps with those little frustrations that you may encounter throughout the day when you can say, hey, someone benefited from what I did today. And so how big is the need for plasma right now?
Right now, just like every other business in the world, when the pandemic hit, it hurt us. Our donation numbers dropped tremendously, but the need for plasma has only grown more since then. So that's kind of why BioLife has been opening up new centers everywhere. My center here in Livonia is just the 3rd in the Detroit area and the 8th in Michigan, and there's no plans for stop expanding anytime soon.
You're listening to and watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We're speaking with Darren Baker. He's the manager for BioLife Plasma Services Center. And so when it comes to the process, where does the plasma go once it leaves your center?
Yeah, there's actually several refractionation plants within the BioLife network where all of that plasma is pooled together after it goes through multiple screenings to make sure that it's nice, healthy, safe plasma to be manufactured into those life-saving therapies that I mentioned.
It really is fascinating when you think about it, but I know it's been used for years to help people with health issues, but we really didn't hear about it before COVID-19.
Yeah, there's and it's really a lot of the diseases that we do help cure and treat are more rare and just lesser known diseases out there. So thankfully, with just with this need for other uses of plasma, it's kind of helped push us into the forefront a little bit more to get people talking about all the things plasma has already been used for and things that it can be used for in the future.
So how many times can a person donate plasma? Is it once a week, once a month, once every 6 months?
So the easiest way to think about it is up to twice in a 7-day period. There has to be also at least one day in between each donation. So you could do like a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Tuesday, Saturday within the same week.
So do you pay for plasma donations?
So because of the time and effort that we want our people to be able to donate with us, we're able to compensate them for that.
That's a nice way to put it. How much?
That kind of depends on, it changes from week to week, month to month. If someone would like the most up-to-date version of what it is, they could head to biolifeplasma.com, or they could give us a call here at the center.
Darren, you know it's Girl Scout cookie time. I might need some cookie money. So is it enough that I'm going to be able to buy like 3, 4, 5 boxes? What are we talking about here?
I think that's going to depend more on how much cookies you're looking for. So let's just say for me personally, I'd be fine getting all the cookies I need with how much people are able to donate.
Okay, so obviously right now it's COVID-19, social distance. So what other procedures are taking place right now? Do you test plasma for COVID-19? How does that work?
That's a great question. So just to start with that very first part, we are doing extra guidelines in order to make sure it's a safe time for both our donors and our employees, and also for the plasma that is being sent out, because again, these therapies are for people who already have diseases, and we do not want to hurt their chances anymore. So like I mentioned in the beginning, we are doing temperature screenings for both employees and donors when they enter the facility. We are practicing social distancing as many locations as it's humanly possible. And we also are requiring masks for both our donors and employees while on site.
Darren Baker with us. He is the manager of BioLife Plasma Services at their Livonia Center. And Darren, after someone does give their plasma, does donate plasma, and after it is tested for COVID-19, as you just spoke about, who does it go to? Does it go to individual doctors' offices or health systems for their use on patients? Does it go to state or federal resources? Who are you sending people's plasma to?
That's a great question. So with convalescent plasma, something that you hear quite a bit, there's really two different uses for that plasma. Our use for plasma is what I talked about, where we pool it all together, and from there we're able to make our medicine from. And then there's also some other facilities where they're collecting that plasma and then it's being used right away for various reasons. I would recommend anybody who wanted to get a little bit more information on it to visit thefightisinus.org, and it talks about different facilities that are collecting plasma specifically for COVID-19 and all the other different ways you can help donate and help make a real difference in the world.
And we've seen some really uplifting and emotional stories at the beginning of the crisis from individuals that had COVID, and then as part of their recovery, they donated the plasma because plasma helped them recover as well. How is that process done? You don't know where the plasma is going. So I can't say, hey, I want to take my plasma and donate it to my mom, can I?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So like I mentioned, our plasma is used to help make medicine from it. If someone wants to specifically use their plasma for that convalescent plasma that you just spoke of, where they received a plasma treatment, they would need to go to thefightisinus.org and check out what other plasma centers are able to help them with that.
And Darren, I also wonder, because right now so much focus is on the vaccine. It seems like we have kind of forgotten about the treatments that are out there, but also some of the trials. I believe, was it Wayne State was taking part in a convalescent plasma trial right now as well. We're forgetting that we still need plasma. So are you anticipating that there is going to be kind of a dip in donations as the world starts to focus on the vaccine and not so much the treatment right now?
I don't foresee that. I think right now we are fighting to get more donations in, getting our name out there, getting a little bit more media coverage. And once people are in our facility, they tend to stay a little bit because they're like, okay, yep, this was an easy time for me. I'm able to get some little extra Girl Scout cookies than what I was anticipating for the year. And I also have that feeling in my chest where I know what I did helped save a life today. So the real right now, with us getting more of our name out there and getting more people donating, I think that's just going to increase the amount of donations.
Well, I'll tell you, Darren, you put a little bit of extra folding pocket in an individual's pocket, but also on top of that, they get to leave knowing that they are helping someone. That's two wins, really, in everyone's book. Hey, quickly, where can people find you?
Yep. So my center is located on 29959 Plymouth Road, Livonia. We just opened this week, so we're looking to get as many donations in as possible, get our numbers ramping up. That way I can get more capacity to get more and more people in here so we can save more and more lives. If they want to, they can also just go to biolifeplasma.com. They'll put in their address, and it'll show them what the nearest facility is where they can donate at. Or if they would like just to give me a call here at the center, I'd be more than willing to answer any questions that they might have. And my phone number here is 734-452-0137.
So, Darren, do they need an appointment?
We do recommend having appointments because it makes the process a little bit more smoother. You know when you need to be here, and you can kind of gauge how long you're going to be here and then plan the rest of your day out.
So
right now we are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish.
I would say that we are also accepting walk-ins at this time too, just because, again, the need for plasma is catastrophic. We want as much donations as possible because, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that need our therapies. So we want to capitalize on anything that we could get in.
And so with that, what does a person need to bring with them other than a mask? I would imagine you need to wear a mask, but do they need an ID, anything else?
Yep, so what they'll need is a valid state ID. So typically people will bring in a driver's license. We also need proof of Social Security. So if they have their Social Security card, that's great. I know tax time is just happening, so if they have their W-2 that has their social on it, that works as well. And then if they have moved recently within the last 60 days, we do need a piece of mail that has their new address on it. That way we can confirm where they're living at.
And what's the youngest age that someone has to be in order to donate?
The absolute minimum requirements for donation is 18 years of age and at least 110 pounds.
Great. Good information. We appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to get people here at Livonia. That way I can see all the people come in and help save lives.
And plus, everyone likes a brand new facility.
I've been to a lot of different BioLife centers in my travel with the company. I'm telling you, this is the best looking center that's in the network. So they can come here and tell me otherwise, but it's just an absolutely gorgeous building.
Well, go see Darren over there at the BioLife Plasma Services Center in Livonia. Donate your plasma, help someone. It's a great program you guys have over there. Thank you for being with us, Darren.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we are going to be speaking with the Great Lakes Packing Company. This is the Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe in our newly redesigned, socially distanced studio.
Yeah, really nice in here. We're having a good time. It's a versatile studio. It's definitely a social distance studio, much more than our previous space, and it's nice to have this in place here. Very interactive as well.
I'm getting a little paint high, though.
A little bit. You know what? It's not as bad. Maybe I'm just immune to it now at this point. It's not as bad. It's the day we moved in. I had fans running. I had windows open outside the studio. And it was the whole place, the whole back end of Green Media Center smelled like fresh black paint the day we brought this in, for probably about a week after that. And came in this Monday, the first day we were going to be broadcasting from in the studio, and it was fine by then.
So for those that may not know, we used to be in the radio studio,
Right.
But it was a little hard to be socially distanced, and we wanted to be respectful of the state's mandates, asking people to work remotely if you couldn't be 6 feet apart. And while we were close to 6 feet apart,
Yeah.
I used to drive Tyler crazy with all my wipes and hand sanitizer and this, that, and the other. It was still a little bit hard, because one thing when you're doing a show, you can't really do it with a mask on.
No, you can't. And you know what? The good thing about the wipes were that it was nowhere near as pungent as the paint from this table, and it kept everybody clean and safe. And then when the newer regulations came in, we decided it wasn't as essential to have both of us in the studio every single day when we could have ourselves socially distanced by being one in the studio and one at home. And now we're in a situation where we have a social distance studio where we could have two co-hosts, and we could have a guest, or we could have a guest and two guests and a host at some time later on in the pandemic, should that be the case. And it's a much safer situation that we're currently in.
I will say, Tyler, I went to bring my wipes in, but they've been in my car. Did you know that wipes do freeze?
Yeah, they contain a lot of liquid, so I'm not entirely surprised with that. Yesterday I picked up some some just bottled water for my own personal use, and had it in the car. I'm like, all right, you know what, this will probably, by the time I'm leaving after last night's municipal meetings, this should be fine. It shouldn't be frozen. It was just a block of ice by the time I got in there, which is good, in case anyone decides to run up at us, as we're leaving the studio. We got a bunch of blocks of ice we can just chuck at them.
Oh, so hey, I'm excited to have our next guest on. We have never talked with him before. I believe he's a first-time guest, but I have to say, when I read this article, I was fascinated. So if we could, we're going to bring in Scott Pryde with us. He's the president and general manager for the Great Lakes Packing Company. But Scott, tell us overall, what do you do?
Oh, wow. Well, so Great Lakes Packing Company is part of the Shoreline Fruit Grower Cooperative. And when it's harvest season, I run the Keewaydin plant. We have a plant in Keewaydin and a plant in Hart, Michigan, to process cherries, and we can talk about that in a bit. Right now, there's not a lot of cherries coming in. It's kind of cold and snowy out there. I'm looking out at the orchards, not a lot of action there. So now we're preparing for the harvest, making sure that all of our equipment is running, as well as working on the sales side of it. So working with our customers, the Sara Lees and the ConAgras of the world, as well as working with some of our processing plants to make sure that we're our finished processing plants, to make sure that they're doing things safely and correctly. And then any feedback to make our processes better, we want to make sure that we get involved in that early and often.
So how much does the cherry industry help support Michigan's economy?
Wow. Now that is a question I didn't expect. It's
a lot.
A lot in this particular area. So our crop, the Shoreline Fruit Grower Cooperative crop, is 20% of the nation's crop, approximately, depending on the season, of tart cherries. So we bring an enormous amount of dollars into the state, both from the workers, because we ramp up in the middle of harvest. We have it's a very large organization, and then the products that we sell as well. But that dollar value, I don't know offhand.
It really is fascinating, because for so many of us, we just think it's about going to the grocery store and getting our fruit. That's not what it is. A lot goes on behind the scenes to be able to get it from the farm to our tables.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. And a lot of preparation. It's a 12-month-a-year operation.
So with that, I know that one of the reasons we're having you on the show is to talk about cherries in general. Before we get to the pits, what does it take to actually process cherries?
So the operation starts with, interestingly enough, my very first job when I was growing up was harvesting cherries. So it's become pretty mechanized at this point. It's not picked, but they're shaken off the trees, and they're put into tanks of chilled water. So about 1,100 pounds of cherries in a tank of cherries, which they'll shake off the trees, and then they'll bring to one of our 2 process facilities. We chill the cherries down to about 50 degrees, and then we dump them into our process lines. As they proceed through the process lines, we sort them by size, and then by color. We use automated color sorters, and then we pit them. And so everybody loves cherries, but there's those pits, and they've never figured out how to make a pitless cherry yet. And when they do, I'll be out of a job. So then we remove the pits, and then we put them in the Keewaydin plant. We put them in these plastic buckets, 25 pounds of cherries and 5 pounds of sugar. And those are primarily used for dried cherries and cherry pies, things of that nature, like you'd buy a Sara Lee or a Marie Callender. The cherries that are oversized, they tend to be, we send them to one of our facilities, and we turn those into juice. And cherry juice, both concentrate and not from concentrate, are really both delicious and have a lot of health benefits associated with them as well. And so we really try and utilize the whole gamut of the crop to make sure that we use the large ones, the small ones, and the just right ones.
So what is the best cherry, the perfect cherry?
The perfect cherry is the one that you will eat. It's a Montmorency tart cherry. if you wanted to know what is my favorite way to eat a cherry, it's the Shoreline. Well, Cherry Bay Orchard's product line is a dark chocolate covered dried cherry. It's almost addictive. No, it's not almost. It is addictive.
That sounds amazing. I'm a dark chocolate fanatic as well. So the two together, what a combination.
Yep. Head right over to Myers. They're right over there. Or Costco.
So tell us about the pit, because you guys are taking advantage of every piece of the cherry, of the fruit.
We do our best, yes. So we at the Keewaydin facility, we process between 10 and 12 million pounds on a good season. 2020 was not a good season, but 2021 is going to be a great season. But we process between 10 and 12 million pounds of cherries here. And about 5% of that is going to be cherry pit by weight. Once that's removed, we send it over to a scrubber to get kind of the pulp off the top, and then we dry it and put it into a large grain bin, and then we'll sell that in either 40-pound bags, 1,000-pound super sacks, or bulk. We actually have large farmers that heat their barns they bring in a big dump truck, and we sell that by the ton for them. And it's I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I'm confused. What do you mean? You're using cherry pits to heat?
Exactly. It's you've heard of a pellet stove. Cherry pits actually have higher BTU value than wood pellets, and because there's the oil in there, with the cherry seed has additional BTU associated with it. So people like them quite a lot for heating. So it's a beneficial reuse, but not as beneficial potentially as this new technology that's being researched for the biochar.
Scott Pryde with us here on the Megacast. He's the general manager for the Great Lakes Packing Company, and I have to wonder, what was it like to figure out that you could use the cherry pit for heat? Who came up with that? Sitting around the campfire? I mean, how does that come about?
Essentially, that's the case. And I was not here. I've only been here for this is my 4th year here. So typically you can imagine how many cherry pits we would have. And there was just no way to get rid of them in an easy way. So they would just pile up on the land around the facility. So we knew that we had to do something, because we weren't going to stop processing cherries. So what would be a beneficial reuse? Selling cherry pits, the dried cherry pits as fuel, is one way to do it. It's not really a profit stream as much as just a way of managing a waste in a way that doesn't affect us from a land use perspective.
Right, it's good for the environment.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, because it's a reusable fuel. Well, it's not reusable, but we don't have to dig up anything out of the ground. We don't have to drill oil. It's ready to go.
Scott, we're also in the middle of a pandemic. I know that you said it hasn't been a good year for the cherry crop, but you expect next year is going to be better. Did the COVID-19 crisis play into your crop this year at all?
It did from a labor standpoint. We really struggled to have the labor we needed for some of our processing. So last year we had a really difficult year from a harvest volume standpoint. And so this plant normally does about 10 million pounds. And last year we were just over 1 million pounds. Had we had a full-size crop, I don't know how we would have had the labor necessary to process like we needed to, because people just weren't coming from, usually we get a number of migrant workers from Texas, and they just didn't want to come up. So we're hopeful with vaccines and a safer work environment, we'll be able to have a standard good process season.
What is the processing season? When does that happen? Is it May, April?
It's usually about July 4th until about mid-August. So, the worst time to be in northern Michigan.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to go up there and volunteer my services there, especially if you'll pay me in cherries. But I have to say, Scott, do you anticipate, because I know they are looking to add agricultural workers to that vaccine list of essential workers. If that does happen and there's enough supply to go around, do you think that's going to help solve some of your labor issues next year?
I am absolutely hopeful for that. I'm kind of relying on that. That's a big deal. So I've been working the state workers that work with the agriculture. They're really helpful in making sure that we have all the connections necessary. We have a migrant camp on site, and they'll inspect it and make sure that what we're doing is safe. And I'm very proud of the fact that we didn't have any COVID issues for the workers we did have this year. We had good separation, we had good ventilation, and so we're just going to continue with that process to make sure we protect the workers and make sure our communication is there. And I think vaccines will only help that.
So do you make cherry wine as well?
Not publicly.
Privately? Because I'm thinking cherry wine with the dark covered cherries, that's a perfect combination.
It is, absolutely.
So what's next for the cherry industry? I know that farming isn't what it used to be. There's not a lot of technology that goes into it now.
So there's technology from the very beginning to the end. There's technology in terms of using drones to capture where your harvest needs to take place. There's a crop damaging bug. They refer to it as SWD, spotted wing I'm sorry, blanking on the last one. But we can use drone technology to make sure that we're harvesting at a rate that's appropriate for managing those risks. So we continue to try and refine our process to make them more efficient, really, and so to bring down our costs. But our biggest struggle is foreign competition. Turkey comes in at about 10% of our costs for dried cherries, and it's really difficult for us to compete at that. So I would just ask your viewership to make sure that the dried cherries, the cherry juice they're drinking is all domestically produced.
And how do they know that? Is it marked on the bottle some way?
It should be marked on the bottle, or they can ask.
That is so important. And on top of that, you're supporting our local economy as well. So the cherries that you grow and you produce, are they sold throughout the United States, or is it mainly concentrated in the Midwest area?
It's concentrated in the Midwest area, but it is throughout the United States. We source Costco, and obviously they're all over the country, and Publix down in the South. So the Cherry Berry Orchards product line is distributed throughout the United States.
I will say, for those that may not have been down south or lived down south, Publix was one of my favorite grocery stores when I lived down south. I went to school in Charleston. And it was also the big hangout spot, and it was a pickup spot, too.
How about that?
You know, guys looking for dates, they used to always go to Publix, so I don't know.
You have to remember that next time I go south.
Hey, Scott Pryde with us here on the Megacast. Anything maybe we didn't touch on before we let you go? Because you're a wealth of knowledge. It's been great talking to you.
I appreciate that. So, when I came to this industry through Sara Lee. I was with Sara Lee for 15 years, and they make, obviously, pies, a lot of really good pies. So I thought cherries were just pies, and the products that we produce are dried cherries, so just straight dried, or those addictive chocolate covered ones. We also have fruit juices, which are really good. Actually, I drink some cherry juice before going to bed. It helps me sleep because some of us have sleep issues. And then we also have some medicinal powders. It's because the skins themselves have shown to be very helpful for both arthritis as well as sleeping and athletic performance. So the cherry is much more widely used than I knew prior to coming to this company.
Well, it really is fascinating because when you're talking about the health benefits, I would never really think about that. When it comes to cherries, I mean, we know oranges, obviously vitamin C, or apples, but we're not taught as young kids, eat your cherries.
No, I wasn't either. Other than the fact that when I was harvesting them, I was eating them off the trees.
That's the best way to have them, huh?
Right, exactly.
Well, Scott, we so appreciate your time. Where can people find out more information?
So we have the company that distributes our product or sells our product. The finished product is Shoreline Fruit. And they have a great website, and you can find out more about the processing as well as buying anything you'd like from them. So shorelinefruit.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If I make it up to Traverse, you're in Traverse City, right? In that area?
Actually, Keewaydin. So we're north of Traverse City by about 20 miles, and you're welcome to come take a tour while we're processing.
We'd love to take a tour. I try to get up there in the summertime and maybe hit a winery and then go over. I'm going to drink some of your homemade wine, and we'll eat chocolate-covered cherries together.
Sounds great. Thanks very much.
Thanks again for taking time to be with us and also educating us on the cherry industry. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/containcovid.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, alongside Tyler Keith once again here in our newly designed studios at 89.3 Lakes FM. Go ahead and give all the call letters, Tyler. I don't have my cheat sheet.
Yeah, we are on 89.3 Lakes FM. We're on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, as well as on 88.1 WBFH The Biff. We'll go a little bit early as we get into our next interview. And just mention the call letters again, or station identifications: 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, as well as 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills.
You know, it's so funny how we get into routines. Yeah. So I had been working from home, and it was obviously a new routine to get into working from home. But now this is only my second day back in the studio, and having to realign that routine that you're in the morning. So I forgot to log in and sign in yesterday, Tyler, so you have to fix my timesheet there.
I'll note that.
But it's those habits, right? So, you know, for me, it was get up, walk the dog, come back, always like around 8 o'clock. Oh, wait, I got to, log on, this, that, and the other. And routine is just out the door as we try to readjust here. And then, of course, then we had the town hall this morning, which threw another wrench into my routine, but we'll get there. Hey, it's so great to have everyone with us here on the Megacast. Excited to speak with our next guest. We do talk with a lot of people from various chambers around the Metro Detroit area, but they all offer so many different things, and they're working so hard right now to bring businesses together because they are struggling during this time. But I don't believe we've ever had our next guest, Tammy Carnrike. She's the Chief Operating Officer for the Detroit Regional Chamber. Tammy, great to have you with us.
Pleasure to be with you, and thank you for the invitation.
Well, it's nice to have you. Tell us what sets your chamber apart from some of the other ones in the area.
Certainly. Well, of course, we are a regional chamber. While Detroit is our name, we're the Detroit Regional Chamber. We are one of the oldest, largest, and most respected chambers in the country. We have served the business community of Detroit and the region for over 100 years. And as the voice for business, we cover an 11-county area of Southeast Michigan. And our mission is clearly to advocate for a business-friendly climate, value for our members, lead a statewide automotive association and convene. Convene is one of the best things that I think our chamber can do. We convene Michigan's most influential audience for signature events, especially one that I'm sure you know of, the Mackinac Policy Conference. But also, I think what really sets us apart is our very, very strong government relations team that focuses on advocacy, work in the city, work in the state, work at the federal levels and the counties that we serve. And then, of course, in addition to the Mackinac Policy Conference, we host several other signature events like State of the Region, State of the State, State of Automobility, and the Detroit Policy Conference.
Well, you tackle a lot of things, but this has been a year like no other year, and we hope not another one for another 100 years. However, we're still managing this crisis, and with an organization that does deal with so many different entities. What's it been like for you and your team this past year?
Well, it's been a very different year, obviously, for all of us, especially. But so in March of 2020, the Chamber, we recognized the need to pivot to working from home, like many other organizations. And then we had to move from in-person events to a virtual format. So that took a lot of work. But we knew that was going to be important if we wanted to continue to reach our audience, our business members. But of course, public health, employee safety, as well as our member safety was paramount to us. So we had to do things safely. We've continued to work from home remotely for almost a year, but we've used digital tools to stay connected and collaborate, even though we're apart. Just because we're not hosting in-person events, our work has not slowed down. I've been very proud of our chamber for what we've done there. We knew that we needed to be a resource regarding the pandemic for businesses. So we created a COVID-19 Business Resource Center website, a vaccine information website. We've hosted many, many virtual town halls with leading figures from around the state as well as the country. And fingers crossed this year, Mackinac Policy Conference will take place. It's scheduled, we moved it to September, hoping that by that time we'd be able to safely gather, but we'll be watching that closely. But the Chamber really has stepped up its efforts to take care of its members during this time. We know how hard it is out there for them, even keeping listings of where they can get PPE, making sure they know what resources are out there for them in their own businesses.
But the Chamber is so based on connections and networking. And yeah, you can do it virtually, but it's not the same. So how has that been for your members right now? Are they trying to find other ways to connect with maybe other businesses?
Well, of course, it's difficult because we have to stay within the parameters of what the state public health guidance is, and obviously what our governor says. So pretty much it has been all virtual. Of our members that I know of, they're doing almost everything virtual. We may have some small businesses who can still get together, in smaller groups, but for the most part, it's been pretty much all virtual. And I will say, Ronnie, I do think the networking part is very difficult virtually, but we've even found technology where we can offer networking to those in that virtual environment to be able to chat with each other.
That's good. I will tell you, Tammy, when this is lifted, I'm warning everyone. I am going to be talking to every stranger in line, every person in the grocery store, every business I go to. Stand back. And I think we're all going to be like that, right? Like just talking to the person in the coffee line with you or saying hi to the person in the grocery store. Yeah, we can do it now with a mask, but people can't see me smiling. So when we come out of the backside of this, I think it is going to help strengthen our relationships with one another.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think everybody's going to be so anxious to get out there, and especially all of our businesses out there are going to be anxious to have us come back and see them.
Detroit was on an upswing, the comeback per se, prior to the pandemic, but the business community is really taking a hit right now. What do you think is going to be the recovery time for some of the businesses, but also some of the city governments and their impact from COVID-19?
Sure. So obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our small businesses, especially more than other industries in the region. And it's really been unprecedented impacts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But we have seen some very good optimism as the economy starts to recover and the region to recover. The Chamber will be hosting an event next Friday, or next Thursday, February the 25th. And that is our annual State of the Region report, which is probably one of our most popular events of the year. It's an event, plus we also publish a report. And in that's where we will give some really good data and information about how COVID-19 has really impacted our region's economy and specific industries. Let me just tell you a little bit about who's going to be on it, just to build some excitement here. But they'll get insights on the state of the economy through a discussion with Jay Farner, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. And so there's going to be a good discussion about cities, and especially the city of Detroit with Jay Farner. And he will be having that conversation with Rebecca Jarvis, who you probably know, Ronnie, who is the Chief Business Economics and Technology Correspondent for ABC News. Then we'll also have a response panel that includes Linda Hubbard, who's the President and CEO of Carhartt, Jim Maltz, who's the President and Midwest Regional Executive of Citizens Bank, and then David Lewis, who's the President of AT&T Michigan. And so that will really give a good comprehensive look at the state of our economy and how we compare to some other regions. And then if you want to talk about the Detroit business community specifically, I did hear you mention that, they have been suffering obviously from COVID-19 especially. So some of the efforts that we've put together there is to, obviously our advocacy team has been really key to fight at the federal level, working with our Michigan congressional delegation to secure the passage of the COVID-19 relief package, including enhanced unemployment assistance and the extension of the Paycheck Protection Act. We're continuing to advocate, obviously, for financial aid to state and local governments. We know how badly our local municipalities are hurting, but then also for long-term liability protection for our businesses who do everything right when it comes to protecting their employees. At the state level, we're also working with the governor and the legislature to find bipartisan consensus on programs like Good Jobs for Michigan, which is a performance-based incentive program that can help jumpstart our economy coming out of COVID-19. We all have to think about how do we get back to where we were, like you mentioned. And then while small business continues to struggle and need more support from federal and state government, Michigan's manufacturing sector has seen some growth, so that's a good sign. And then we're at the forefront of working with the automotive industry, both through advocacy on the work that our Mich Auto team does in convening mobility leaders and providing thought leadership on the future of the industry. So we know that automotive industry is also going to be very, very important to a robust economy.
Tammy Carnrike with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the Chief Operating Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber. And Tammy, earlier you did mention in the introduction portion of our interview that while Detroit is in the name, it is a regional chamber. And there are many other chambers in our local area. We work very closely with our chamber here in West Bloomfield and other neighboring areas as well. Collaboration has been such a key point of their efforts on the local level during the pandemic. How important has collaboration been in the Detroit Regional Chamber's efforts in terms of collaborating with other local chambers as well as small businesses outside of the city and throughout the metropolitan area in order to help all of these businesses with their own unique struggles, by the way, get through this pandemic?
Yes, that's really important. I'm glad you asked this question because the Detroit Chamber really does believe in collaboration to get things done. No one can go in on their own. You bring up other chambers in the region. We have fabulous chambers across our region, and we look to partner with them when we can, especially to support them in any way that we can. We work with them, the local chambers of the region, we keep in touch with, especially through some of our efforts around Wellness Works, which is a healthcare wellness activity and website that we have set up, through some of our programs for business support, like our Office Depot program. But we also know that these chambers are really good themselves. And when it comes to serving their communities, they are the leaders. And so we're also very careful that while we serve across the region, we're also very, very sensitive to there are local chambers, there are county chambers, and we want businesses in those areas to work with those chambers. Now, as far as other collaboration for the Detroit Regional Chamber, probably one of the greatest areas I could talk to you about is our new racial justice and economic equity initiative that we started in June of last year. We've been reaching out to all of the regional partner organizations who are dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion to find out what they are doing, how we can be supportive to them, and then what more we can do that isn't being met currently in that field. We participate all the time with other regional organizations in almost everything we do, even include our advocacy effort. I talked about our great advocacy team. We work with not only chambers around this region, but we work statewide. We'll work with the Grand Rapids Chamber, with business leaders from Michigan. We believe very strongly in collaborating with other large business organizations, because what that does is that provides one voice from the business community when we're talking to our elected leaders about what we need to help our economy grow again.
That is an important point that you just brought up about trying to communicate with our elected leaders with one voice. How important has that been more so now than years past? Because we do have so many businesses that are struggling and a lot that are closing as well.
Yeah, I think that it is more important than ever. You're right, but I'm seeing more collaboration than ever also, because it is so important. We can all, just look to our governor. She has a task force of business leaders who advise her on decisions we make around COVID-19 and how we do get this economy going back in a robust way. Advocacy, speaking out strongly as one voice is more important now, like you said, than it has been in the past. I won't say in the past it wasn't important, because we were getting Michigan back on track to a stronger economy. Unfortunately, here comes COVID-19, a pandemic. But if we're going to get it back on track, we have to be ready for that. When the pandemic is to the point like you were talking about earlier, Ronnie, we need to be able to hit the gas quickly and get busy to help our businesses to grow back, especially our small businesses. They need help more than ever. We know there's a lot of good resources out there for them, but we're going to need a lot more. One thing I will say, though, about small businesses that's interesting at this time, we've gone back and looked at, how things have affected us with COVID-19, but then looked back at the last recession. And one of the highlights that we have found is during COVID-19, there's actually been a higher level of business upstarts than back in the recession. Some of that we know to be entrepreneurialism that pivoted. Businesses who were reliant on a certain customer channel, but then couldn't do that anymore. And so they pivoted and formed something new so that they could stay successful.
Yeah, sometimes out of a crisis, we have to use innovation to move forward and to improve. What has been the talk with businesses when it comes to COVID-19? Early on, it was all about testing. And with 2021, the vaccine does bring hope, but it seems as if testing has kind of taken a back seat during this time, because we do know a lot of the testing, it wasn't reliable. Has that gotten better, and how has that impacted the business community?
Completely gone away. It's just that it's getting overshadowed by discussions of the vaccine. But I do think testing will still be required. There may be, this is what's being talked about daily. Will businesses require employees to be tested before they come back. A lot of our employers have not decided on that. For us as an organization, if we start having events in person again, will we want to make sure that someone's been tested? Even with the vaccine, you're going to continue to need testing. What the business community is talking about right now is also the vaccination administration and how they give their employees confidence to take the vaccine. That's really very, very important. If companies want to get their employees back into their offices and their plants, et cetera, they're going to need some confidence that the majority of their employment population is safe. So I think what you'll find is testing is not going to go away. Businesses are still going to want that. But then also, how do we now say everyone the importance of having a vaccine is going to get us back to that herd immunity level quicker?
Yeah, and with the COVID-19, I think really in 2021 you mentioned it there about the vaccine. I think we're going to see a lot of companies, if they can't require it, we're already seeing maybe some of the grocery stores offer incentives for the employees to get the vaccine.
Yes, I've seen that with several businesses who are doing that, offering incentives for it. But I do think a lot of it right now is about education and awareness. And the Detroit Regional Chamber has been doing several teletown halls on this, making people understand exactly what they need to know about the vaccine, why it's something that they should do, how important it is for our overall population.
So when we're talking about some of these businesses, and we know it impacts them greatly depending on the business, right? I mean, if we're a Costco or a Target or a Menards, we're going to survive this. In fact, they're actually seeing increase in sales as well. But if we're, the small restaurant, the coffee shop on the corner in Detroit, they're not going to survive. So as someone who is the leader of such an important organization, and you have such a strong voice in the business community, how do you navigate the different worlds and the different needs of various businesses throughout this pandemic?
Commerce, that's what we have always had to do. You always have a membership that's very diverse, from very large corporations right down to the very small business owner. And it's up to us to make sure that we're representing all those segments. That's how we try to keep a pulse. We go out and try to keep a pulse on the community. We're constantly surveying our members to try and get feedback on what issues they're facing, talking with small businesses and helping small businesses also to find the extra resources they may need, whether that be counseling or resources for their business, finding what funding sources are out there for them. I mentioned our racial justice and economic equity initiative earlier. As part of that work, we're actually now reaching out into the neighborhoods, working with neighborhood organizations to find out about small businesses out there that are in need of help and how we can get them connected to the right resources.
For some of the businesses, how are they doing on the employee front? Because it's kind of been all over during the pandemic. We had some places, employees didn't want to come back to work because they were making more on unemployment. And now we are also seeing a big shift in trying to get some of the frontline workers additional college educations or college training as well. So how is that playing into the overall scheme of the business community there in the Detroit region?
Brought that piece up about perhaps going back for more education, getting more education, which we're very, very supportive. Obviously, we don't want to see businesses losing employees, so we encourage our employers to help their employees to go back and get further education. We actually just held an event that it's called the State of Education. This is an annual report that talks about the assessment of education attainment in the region with many key indicators. But unfortunately, we are trending in the wrong direction when it comes to post-secondary attainment. And that puts us very far behind other metro regions across the nation. And as the nation grapples with the multiple crises of public health, economic recession, racial equity, getting folks back to education is really very, very important. It's projected, actually, I have a little statistic for you, that it's projected that 75% of the jobs in the future will require a post high school degree or certificate. And currently, less than 49% of our adult population in the region, in the Southeast Michigan region, has a 2-year, 4-year, or professional certification. So as you can see, we're behind in that area. We have established a goal of reaching 60% post-secondary attainment by the year 2030. And our programs are working with stakeholders across the state, not just in our region, to achieve this goal. So I think you're right. The workers, the environment's changed. You are seeing some that aren't coming back. But I think as some of the work from home activity starts to dwindle down, you'll start to see a lot more coming back. Yes, some for education, but we also are hearing there's a lot that want to come back. They're ready to get back into their normal activity and get back into the offices.
We're joined by Tammy Carnrike, Chief Operating Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber on the Oakland County Megacast. And Tammy, you talked a little bit, you mentioned the at-home work environment. That's definitely been something that has been a major change in the business community during this pandemic, and will continue to be a change in the business community post-pandemic as well. That's had some impact on cities. We know we've spoken previously with the mayor of the city of Troy, Ethan Baker, who has mentioned that it's had some impact on their business community, particularly in office space in the city not being occupied, or maybe not going to be occupied in the future. Is that going to have a similar effect in Detroit, or at least what are the businesses in the city of Detroit and in the regional area doing to combat that issue and help especially these landlords that are owners of these buildings make sure that they are remaining occupied?
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I don't have a really good handle on how much empty, office space there is, but I can tell you Detroit is obviously a lot of large foot traffic, and with everybody working from home, that is affecting our storefronts and our restaurants. That's why we are always saying, please make sure to go and support your local businesses, support your local restaurants, because they are having this void at this time. I think the other issue that's going to be important to think about and talk about more is, now that businesses have found they can be productive with employees working from home, what will that result in the future? Will that mean that there'll be more workers that will be working away from the general office area or company area? Or will they all be brought back? Technology has certainly played a key role in businesses being able to continue to communicate with employees and get the work done. So I think that's a really big question. And I think that's what Jay Farner will especially talk to at our State of the Region event next week, because they have a good pulse on what's happening in the downtown area. In an initial discussion with his company, they are saying, though, that there's still good signs. There are still technology companies coming into Detroit. We can look at the most recent news that said Apple just chose the city of Detroit as its first city in the nation for the Apple Academy. So there's good news out there too, but you're right. There's a loss of foot traffic. We need to get that back. All the more reason we need to keep stressing to people the importance of getting the vaccine.
And I think I just saw the story too, where they were saying the availability of apartments downtown. At one time, you had to get on a waiting list. Right now, apartments are available, and there are a lot of special deals. So if anyone has been considering moving to the city of Detroit, now is a good time to do so and take advantage of that. Tammy, before we let you go, just a couple more minutes here with you. I know we're taking up a lot of your time, but we have so many questions for you. How can people find out more about the State of the Region event? Can they sign up? Is there a cost, or is there a limit to this event?
Sure. No, they and actually, let me give you this. It's www.detroitchamber.com /SOR. So they can go right to that website. They can register. There's no limit to how many because we're in a virtual environment, of course. And there is a cost, and I don't have that right off the top of my head, but it's a nominal cost, Ronnie. And I think people would find it well worth the investment to hear the data that's going to be shared by our CEO, Sandy Barua. We have a terrific research department, so there's going to be a tremendous amount of data shared on the state of our economy. But we're also going to take a look at how we compare, as I mentioned earlier, during this pandemic versus the recession and the difference in how, this pandemic has affected us. But when we look back at the recession, it hasn't impacted us as badly. So I think that plus the discussion with Jay Farner, which will answer a lot of those questions you've been asking me about the city of Detroit, but also the reaction panel. 3 dynamic CEOs, Linda Hubbard from Carhartt, she's amazing. David Lewis, who's the president of ATT Michigan, certainly has a good pulse on technology. And then Jim Maltz with Citizens Bank will bring a whole financial aspect to it.
Well, that's the upswing of this pandemic is we can all watch via Zoom, because before it would be typically downtown at Cobo. Well, it's still always going to be Cobo to me, or one of those types of places, and you would be limited. Well, now more and more people can join in and take advantage of the information. Tammy, before we let you go, I do want to ask, because some of the numbers that you put out about education, it really is alarming. We need to catch up. And I feel like, a college degree is what a high school diploma was for us, 15, 20. You need some type of post-education now. But with that, I worry about how this pandemic is hurting the female workforce, because I saw a study, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, how many women are actually getting out of the workforce now because of the pandemic, maybe the additional stress of staying home and trying to educate their kids, but also a lot of times they're more impacted because they are in lower income paying jobs. Has there been any talk or focus on that angle with the chamber right now?
Well, I will tell you that we have one of the largest portfolios of education and talent programs in Michigan. Excuse me, because we do recognize that a more prosperous and competitive Detroit starts with improving, educational outcomes. We are looking at not only those that are in the workforce or that are here in our course and available for education, but we're also looking at those who might not have the opportunities as others to get that educational attainment, and coming up with programs to specifically help them. So you have the female population, but you also have, race, ethnic diversity, who may have some barriers. Our education and talent team is looking at all of that.
Well, Tammy, it's been so great having you with us here on the show, a great conversation. And we like to remind people, I know sometimes out here in Oakland County, people say, well, why do we care about what's happening in Detroit? But number one, as you said, you are a regional chamber, but we are interconnected.
Yes.
It doesn't stop at 8 Mile. What happens in Detroit impacts us, and what happens here in Oakland County impacts the city of Detroit as well. So it's been great having you with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. If I might add one last thing, because you are interested in the education piece, when they go to our website, DetroitChamber.com, you can also see the State of Education report on our website.
Oh, I'm going to definitely look at that a little bit later today. Thank you again for being with us. We so appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Tammy Carnrike with us. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Detroit Regional Chamber. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19. to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain-COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Thank you for taking time out of your Thursday to be with us here on the Megacast. I also want to say thank you to who are we live streaming on today? I have so many pieces of paper around me right now.
We're with the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's office today, Ronnie.
That's it. Well, because we had a stack of papers, for the town hall show.
Right.
So the Vaccine 19 town hall show, which was a great event. But I had a stack of papers for that, and now I have a stack of papers for this, and the headlines, and everything's kind of commingling here, and I'm just very disorganized today, Tyler.
There's a lot going on over here today, okay? You got to give yourself a little bit of credit here. We got a lot of details we're going through. We got a lot of people to talk to, a lot of questions to ask, and, things get a little bit lost. Our Facebook partner isn't right on the top of the mind. It's going to happen. We're doing a lot in here. It's two people in a broadcast studio doing not one, but two consecutive news shows with 5 minutes in between. Come on.
Exactly. And just to let people know, it's not like back in the day. So I actually started in this industry as a producer. And so as a producer, a little bit different than what we say producing here, where you actually had a rundown, you pre-wrote the show. This is how much time for this. This is how much time for that. We don't really do that here. It's kind of loosey-goosey, and we go with the flow, which also allows for us to have, I think, better conversations as well, because we're not so tight on time all the time. But with that, like our next guest, they had to cancel, so we have a little bit of extra time. So we, try to fill it here, try to fill it there, and then in the middle of it, I'm disorganized. Not a good combination, Tyler.
No, not a good combination, but no, it's something we can recover from. A couple details being lost for a moment or two, and we got to shuffle through some papers. It's gonna happen. I've been making some errors over here too, just trying to find one thing versus the other. I got four different mice over here and keyboards, and one keyboard for some reason when you start typing letters on one computer versus the other, it'll just keep typing the same letter for you, and it has a mind of its own. Bunch of different buttons to press. I got to stop our automatic player on the radio station over here so we don't have that happen in the middle of the next break. So it's a lot to manage in this new studio.
So hey, though, we do want to let people know that if maybe you are unable to tune into the virtual town hall meeting that we had prior to this show, it was focused all about the vaccine, because we do know there is so much confusion and misinformation out there right now. So if you get a chance, it will re-air a little bit later today. It's a great show and a lot of information in it, straight from the experts, which is so important right now, because you go behind the headlines and the conflicting information. And we do know right now, Tyler, that there's still a lot of questions about the vaccine and about COVID-19, but our experts did a great job of answering so many of those questions.
Yeah, we got a lot of details covered in there. We'll have, of course, the full vaccine town hall on our website later on today, civiccentertv.com. It'll also be on our regular channel, Comcast 15, AT&T 99. We'll play it on the West Bloomfield School District channel as well, Comcast 19, and AT&T channel 99. And we'll work this afternoon to make some short clips from that as well. In lieu of some clips from today's Megacast, we'll have clips on specific big question issues that we got from the vaccine town hall, such as whether or not you should still get the vaccine if you've had COVID-19. Should pregnant and nursing women get the COVID-19 vaccine? Should you wait for the one-dose vaccine? We touched on that a little bit earlier on in this program, but all those questions were answered in that COVID-19 town hall from experts on the front lines who have been researching this since day one.
So I saw an interview with one comedian. Oh, was it Chris Rock maybe? And he was asked, "Are you going to get the vaccine?" "Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?" And it's like, "What? You don't know what's in it?" And he's like, "I don't know what's in Tylenol, but I take it because if I have a headache, I take a Tylenol and it goes away. So I don't need to know what's in a vaccine. I'm just a regular person. I'm going to leave that up to the experts and the smart people to figure out what to put into the vaccine. All I know is it's going to help me and it's going to help my community, and that is the important thing." And that was one of the things one of the doctors addressed. Yeah. It's like, hey, look, a lot of people are concerned about the vaccine, but what we do know is, it is sometimes the effects of COVID-19 could be much worse than the effects of the vaccine.
Yeah, and you have to also keep in mind that these people on the front lines, the doctors we spoke to, the president of Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and the information that we also got from experts around the community that we corroborated during the COVID-19 town hall. These are people who have been there on the front lines throughout this entire pandemic and researched these topics even before situations like a pandemic. They're used to doing research. Dr. Chen, an infectious disease expert, is used to doing research on vaccinations and epidemic proportions and viruses of pandemic proportions. And we trust certain resources in our community for certain kinds of information, and the medical community is a valuable resource to each and every one of us that we can learn about this virus from, learn about these vaccines from. And those resources on the community level tend to be very open to answering questions from individuals in a simple phone call or email.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and then when we come back, we will end the show speaking with our state senator from the 27th District. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Tyler, I think we should take tomorrow off.
Maybe. Yeah, I'd be up for it. I'm always up for it.
Just about 20 minutes left here in the Megacast, but I feel like we have already worked a full week here at Civic Center TV.
That's just today.
And being back here in the studio, I forgot. It's always hard for me to get an internet signal. in here, not just the Wi-Fi, but also on my phone. So I'm, kind of like that commercial. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It's like, hey, can you see me now? Can you see me now? But it's great. We 20 minutes left here in the show, and I'm excited to bring in our last guest. I do always appreciate the time of all of our elected leaders because they bring an important voice to the show. And with that, let's go ahead and bring in our state senator, Jim Ananick. He is the Michigan 27th District and also our Senate Minority Leader. Great to have you with us.
Here, thanks.
Hey, I see you're very active on Twitter.
It's where people get a lot of their information now. So I'm not the most comfortable with it, but I'm trying to be as accessible as possible.
I think it's great. So many more elected leaders should be doing that as well because I've seen some of your tweets, like you're using the video, and immediately too. How has it been for you to be able to use social media to directly reach the people you represent?
Yeah, I think, traditionally it was just sort of newsletters, emails, before emails, calling people. And now there's just so many different avenues and people get their information different ways. And you want to try to reach people as many different ways as possible. I haven't used it yet. I even set up a Parler account, which is sort of the right wing, the conservative social media tool. I just wanted to figure, hey, I got constituents. I'm a Democrat, but I represent all my constituents. So I'm trying to reach them wherever they're at. And they may not like everything I do, but I want to make sure they know what I'm doing.
That's a great viewpoint to have. I'm with you. I haven't been on Parler yet, but I know other people that are. And we have to be able to, see what's happening on all platforms, because if you just have one view, then you're not reaching everyone. And, especially as someone such as yourself, you're our elected leader.
Yeah, that's the way I kind of look at it. I get the Daily Wire, I get Breitbart. Obviously, I watch Fox occasionally. Of course, I still watch MSNBC, CNN, New York Times. I just try to have shows like this. I try to watch a wide variety of things. I do a lot of podcasts now, so I just want to make sure I'm getting as much different viewpoints, and so that when I'm making decisions, I'm thinking about things from all perspectives and trying to challenge myself to make sure that I'm understanding at least the other point of view, whether or not I agree with it or not.
So with that, we are seeing party politics, not only throughout the country and in D.C., but also we're seeing some party politics there in Lansing. A lot of it having to do with the COVID-19 relief money. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, so obviously the federal government has sent a number of different tranches of money to states all across the country, some even to local governments. So far, it's not been the most prettiest process, but we've usually figured out a way to get to agreement on it. The first 3 different times, I believe, I think there was 3 different ones so far. We came together, we compromised, and we put together pretty good packages that we think work pretty well for helping people at this unprecedented time. Right now, we have a large chunk of federal dollars just sitting here. We put out our plan last week or the week before of how to spend those dollars to get students back in school and make parents and teachers, because there's a lot of stress on families right now. It's very difficult to have your kid trying to learn through a laptop or a hybrid model, or even in school right now. And we have to do better to make sure that these parents have the tools, these teachers have the tools. My wife's a teacher. It's a struggle. It's just no question about it. We got to help small businesses that are struggling. All these different avenues. We have a different way of life right now, and we have to acknowledge that first, and then make sure we come together to give solutions. And I said this yesterday on the floor. If you don't like our plan, fine. Present your plan, and let's compromise and get something out. But holding on to federal dollars, it doesn't do anything. We can't just spend it on something else. It has to be spent on relief for COVID. So we should do it together. There's times for politics. Look, this is. I'm not naive. I don't pretend like this isn't. That there's not going to be differences and not going to have fights. But like on this stuff, we should come together and say, let's figure it out for folks.
We would appreciate that. All of us little people that are taxpayers. I will say, tell your wife thank you for what she's doing, because teachers have it so hard right now. as well.
It's really tough.
But why is it that it was just a few months ago that schools were forced to close down, but yet now there's a big push to reopen them? And I understand the numbers are down right now in the state, but what happens if we see another huge uptick?
Yeah, I think, the Republican plan out of the House was basically, we're going to hold this money over your head. We want big government to decide that you have to go back to school. I know at least from our perspective, we want to give school districts the tools so that when they reopen up, whether it's fully every kid in the classroom or whether it's some hybrid version where a lot of parents just don't feel comfortable sending their kids to school. They want them to stay home or do some version where they go in some of the time and some of the time they stay home. People, local communities should have that choice. Families should have that choice. The government should not decide that for them. So our plan would be to basically give them the tools if they choose to go back all in person to make sure that we have the resources they need. And, they closed down last year. And then this year was kind of a decision up to the local districts. How they wanted to do it. And now there's this push to say, well, we know best, like I said, the House Republican plan is we know best, trust us. We're going to hold this money over your head unless you do these certain things. And that's just not the kind of approach we think makes sense. But, hopefully we can get those resources out to schools and families and teachers so that they can do what's best for their community. And I think eventually get kids back into classrooms like they used to be.
It seems like it's so far away, right, to have school the way it used to be. And I wonder, though, how many kids are falling between the cracks right now, because you worry about the kids' school was their safe place. And even in the hybrid model right now, there are kids that aren't being counted right now. No one really knows where they are.
Yeah, what we need to, I think the major focus, in my opinion, I was a teacher before I came to Lansing, is let's make sure the kids' well-being is first, right? And that whatever model that is, let's make sure we're thinking about the kids' health first. And then obviously make sure we're educating our kids. And we're going to have to put resources to catching them up. There's just no question about it. And to play politics with that is crazy, because nobody across this country, whether you're a kindergartner or a senior in high school, had the year that they wanted to have, right? And that's no one's fault other than the coronavirus and the fact that, we didn't have much of a national plan. Hopefully, it seems like we do now, that they're starting to come out with a real robust plan to get teachers vaccinated, to get schools back open again. That's important. We tried to pretend like it wasn't a virus, like it wasn't a real thing last year. Now, obviously, I think as a country, we're taking it very serious. But a lot of kids are being left behind. A lot of kids are struggling with this isolation. We have to get our hands around this virus. And I'm glad that President Biden is taking such a serious approach to it, because if you don't handle the virus, you can't do anything else.
So what are your thoughts about implementing the standardized test again, at least as a baseline to try to figure out where kids are today?
I think we should get a baseline for sure. Whether it's a normal standardized test that we used to do under normal times, I don't know if that's the best approach. But I think there are plenty of baseline tests out there to get a feel for how much learning loss happened. And to act like it didn't happen that's silly, right? Because it happened. The only thing that we know is it happened to everybody, right? So no one's falling more behind. Well, maybe there's different levels of loss, but we all know that no one's where they need to be. So we can make sure that we put the resources, whether it's in elementary, middle school, high school, or in college, to get people caught up to where they need to be. I think we don't want to panic and make sure that families are not panicking about this. We need to make sure we give them the resources and the tools to make sure their families and their kids get what they need. I think we can do that. I really do. I mean, I don't think that's some far off thing that's impossible. I think that's something we can definitely give to families to make sure that they feel comfortable going into next school year, that their kid is where they need to be.
What grade does your wife teach?
She's in high school.
High school. I will say you're a former educator, but now you're an elected leader. You're a person with influence and power. Can we bring back old style math?
I'd be happy to do that. I don't understand the new stuff.
Right? I'm like, no, I am not smarter than a fifth grader.
It's writing a book report to figure out a math problem doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's probably why I was a social studies teacher. But
we're joined by Senator Jim Ananick on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the senator for the 27th District and a Michigan Senate Minority Leader as well. And you talk about improving education in the classroom for these schools and testing learning loss. Another issue we've seen come up, and this was pre-pandemic and only exacerbated by the pandemic, is access to equal or at least quality resources in our school buildings, and in particular water. You are involved in the Filter First legislation that would work to make sure all Michigan schools have filtered water for kids to drink. And we spoke with the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner yesterday about regional and statewide efforts to improve the quality of our state water and our water resources. How important is it to get each of these school districts specific standards of water for students to have access to during the day, especially as they're going back to in-person learning statewide?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's to the point that Ronnie made earlier. Sometimes the school is the most safe place for these kids until we can get them into a safe environment all the time, right? So if this is where you're getting your healthy meal, this is where you're getting your required amount of water a day, we should make sure that when we put them in a building that they're required to go to, that it's as safe as possible for them. And so our bill, Senator Kurt Vanderwall, Republican, and myself, came up with this concept last session. We've introduced it again. It was in the governor's budget this time, so we're hopeful that we can get some movement on it. Is basically we should assume that these older school buildings have some issues with their water, whether it comes to lead or some other issues, and we should put a filter on first as we're starting to replace the lines or the issues in the building. Having grown up and live and represent in Flint, we knew this was the case in our schools in Flint, and in many cases across the state, we're going to have this problem. So you put the filter on first, and you protect the children and the teachers that are in the building, and then you look to see if there's problems. The worst thing happens is you give kids a little bit better water, and the best thing is you find that the worst thing is you protect them while you replace the lines. The best thing is you give them just better water, and there is no lead issues. But it's always better to make that decision from a standpoint of protecting, and then finding out you don't have a problem than the other way around.
It really is a shame that we're still talking about this issue, but we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it makes me wonder how many important issues are being put on the back burner right now because we are so focused on the COVID-19 crisis.
Well, I think we're trying. I'm not in the House anymore. Obviously, it's been a number of years since I'm there, and I'm sure they're doing the same thing. But a number of us, obviously you see the news, and it looks like all we do, everyone in politics just hates each other and fights. That's not what really happens on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, when someone does something or says something inappropriate, it is my responsibility to get up and to correct the record. But the conversations that are happening otherwise are very, very robust. They're very productive. Like I said, Kurt Vanderwall is a Republican, and he and I see eye to eye on this. A bunch of my colleagues are working with Republicans on bills of all different natures. So we're trying to chew gum and walk at the same time. Right? We kind of have a plan. There's kind of a plan in place for COVID. It's just making sure we follow it and inform people. Like you guys were mentioning at the beginning of the show, it's really just about educating people. There's so much information out there, and a lot of it's not accurate, right? And it's just getting people information to experts and let them make their own decisions. There are universal things like we should be socially distancing, we should be wearing masks, we should be washing our hands when we're out in public with individuals until we get this COVID under control. Obviously, vaccinations are now becoming online. We should be getting back to some sense of normalcy in this year. So we should be doing that along with the other work that's really important. And I think water quality is one of those ones that is not a partisan issue, and it sure as heck shouldn't be.
It really is a shame of what happened in Flint. And, sadly, the issue is still not completely resolved there as well. But I have to ask you, Senator, do sometimes you feel like you're living a real-life game of whack-a-mole? Because when you're dealing with one thing, you try to address that issue, and then 4 more pop up, and then you handle them, and here's 3 more.
Oh, there's no question about it. And this is going to sound a little hokey for some people, and it's not. I'll be honest with you. I'm an old school guy. I grew up in a working class town. About a year ago, right when the pandemic started, a friend of mine recommended meditation. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm nothing against anybody who does it. I started doing it. Just a little bit of that, even just sort of sitting there, just sort of focusing my mind for 10 minutes. it helps me a lot, because there are so many things we got to deal with. All of us do. And you don't want to spend all your time just screaming at your family, right? Which is happening more and more, right? People are having trouble dealing with this isolation and this fear. And we have to find a way to make sure that we don't live in fear. And the way to do that is to protect yourself, is to reach out to people and have conversations and making sure you're not isolating yourself, because it's really tough on our kids. But like you're saying, I just try to address it one at a time. I don't, I'm not Superman. I'm not going to solve every problem. I just try to do the best I can. And it's tough though, but I'll tell you that a little bit of 10 minutes of meditating in the morning helps me out a lot. And it's not the end all be all, and it may not be for everybody, but if you don't acknowledge that we're dealing with this, and that this is a tough thing for us all to be dealing with, and a lot of people feel isolated and alone, there's something wrong with them. There is nothing wrong with you. This is a tough time right now. We're gonna get through it together.
So much true. Before the schools shut down, I know back in the city of Detroit, they did, it was basically like a pilot program where they had the kids doing yoga and meditating. And they saw great benefits. Their test scores went up, their discipline problems went down. So don't laugh, you're not alone. There's even an app for people. It tells you when to breathe. Just take a breath. It's all okay. And like you said, we're all in this together right now, and it's okay to admit when you are stressed out. Hey, before we let you go, I know that you have the My Supply legislation that you've introduced. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think when we got in the beginning of this pandemic, every state, all across, even the country, was where we were hunting. We were out trying to bid each other out for testing supplies, for PPE masks, all the things that we now are just part of our daily life. And in many cases, we had to go beg, borrow, and steal from China and other countries and not here in our own country. Obviously, a lot of folks, especially in Michigan, because we're a manufacturing company, started to volunteer to make these masks and things of that nature, and that's great. But going forward, I think we should operate as if we don't know what the future is going to hold, and we should be prepared going forward, whether we have a pandemic, whether we have a 100-year flood like we did in Midland, and restock our emergency. Everyone has an emergency kit at their house, or should, right? The state should restock its emergency kit for the state. And I think we can do that here. We were the arsenal of democracy. We're the people that put the world on wheels. We should be the place that restocks our emergency kit. And that's exactly what the bill would do. It would form a board. My bill would call for the manufacturing of that material by the state, but I'd be happy to work with private companies to make sure that we have their expertise, or they be the ones that manufacture it, and we sort of store it and logistically handle it. So if there's a flood, instead of waiting days or weeks, you can have it within hours. If there is another a pandemic of this nature, we can have people having masks within hours and days, not weeks and months. These are just things I think just make common sense, and I'm hoping to get some movement on the bill, and that people see the value in what I'm trying to do here.
And it is really important because we also have to keep in mind some of these products do have a shelf life. If they're not used, you can't just pull them out. There is a shelf life to them to make sure that they are, can be used in the way that they're designed to be used. Senator, just about 30 seconds here left with you on the Megacast. Anything maybe we didn't touch on happening up there in Lansing that you want to share?
No, I think, obviously, as I mentioned before, we got these federal dollars, and I hope that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle start to come to the table and say, let's get these out to people that need them. And hopefully that happens, and I'm still hopeful that's going to happen, and that we're going to come to a settlement that helps everybody and takes the politics out of it, because I think that's what we need on this issue.
Oh, we definitely do, and we appreciate you recognizing that as well. And, not just the public, not just the schools, but we have so many small businesses struggling right now as well. And while there have been a lot of grants, sometimes getting that money is hard to do, and it also doesn't go as far as it needs to. Senator, thank you again for being with us. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year, and it is a new year. See, we're living Groundhog Day here on the Megacast. Take care. We appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
That's pretty much going to wrap it up for us here on the show today, Tyler. I will say I tried to pull up the official time, but my Wi-Fi and internet is going in and out, so I'm stuck on 11:57.
Well, then I will take over in that case, Ronnie. It is 11:59. We're just about wrapping up with our program at this point as I switch my camera, not our TV screen. Here we go. About 10 seconds left. Today's episode, as well as all of our episodes online, civiccentertv.com. We'll have it this afternoon, as well as that COVID-19 vaccine town hall replaying at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock on WBTV and throughout the afternoon. This is the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back on Friday morning at 10 a.m.